and Orel had the greatest season ever. That's why he should be a Hall of Famer, and he's going to join us now on the Travis and DeMarco Show.
Absolutely. Thank you, Chris. How are you feeling, Orel?
I'm doing great.
So what'd you think of it last night? Chris was just kind of teasing me there a little bit about how excited I was to see Ohtani. I was telling Mike Trudell, who's in for DeMarco today, I don't know if I've ever been to a game in the middle of the week, in the middle of June, where it felt like it did last night in the ballpark at Dodger Stadium.
Yeah, Ohtani, so what did he do? Just kidding. The hits were awesome. I was glad that he pitched and still got some hits because that bat is, so important to the team. But as far as the pitching, I think, you see the stuff. You saw the command was slightly off at times. You saw the check swing from Machado that probably could have bailed him out of the inning where he didn't give up a run and would have protected his pitch count. So I think all in all, it was a really successful night as far as the arm was concerned and the pitching. And, of course, through this whole thing, all the way through the end of this season, it's going to completely be about how does he feel the next day. We're going to talk about the performance. We're going to cheer the performance. We're going to be on the edge of our seat watching the best two-way player ever and maybe one of the best players ever to put on a uniform. But it's all going to be about the future as far as how does he feel the next day.
Orel, we were talking earlier in the show, we're thinking about his mechanics, and after you have the second Tommy John, does there need to be some kind of change to reduce the extension and the load on the elbow and how that impacts velocity, how that impacts spin rate, and just the angle? Can you get technical a little bit with just what you know about the arm, like what he goes through, and then what you saw from the actual product and the ball coming off of his arm, off of his fingers?
Well, you're only as strong as your weakest link, and the ligament is one of the weaker links in the body, no matter who you are. If you're Ohtani or you're somebody else, a 12-year-old kid, and the stress on the elbow is going to be a lot, no matter what arm angle you're throwing. But your mechanics do help that, stabilize it, put less stress on it. Having a little more weight helps because ground force production helps. I thought his mechanics looked great, but you can't move something. When you break a Ferrari, right? It breaks quicker because it's going at 160 miles an hour for some reason, or 200 miles an hour. And when you're a St. Bernard and you're just kind of trotting along, you're not breaking anything because when you're slightly out of whack, there's not enough pressure on the areas to hurt you. So it's really hard to throw 98 to 102 miles an hour and have every weakest link stay strong and be perfect and not get hurt. You can analyze till the cows come home, and we have elbow surgeries all over baseball, from Little League all the way up to the big leagues, and then to guys that are young in the big leagues, to guys who are old in the big leagues, to guys who have had them once, twice, and three times. And it's just pitching is not completely a very easy thing to do, and it causes stress in certain areas, and we know probably the number one stress has been on the elbow and on the shoulder.
Orel Hershiser joining us here. We're talking about Shohei Ohtani's Dodger debut on the mound yesterday. And Orel, even somebody that's pitched as much as Ohtani has and pitched at a really high level the way that he has, and obviously he can strike guys out, is that kind of the last thing to come back when you're coming back from a long layoff? It's the first time he'd pitch in 663 days. That ability to finish hitters off, because we saw him I think he got to a full count in 5 of the 6 guys that he faced, but Machado the check swing, but he wasn't able to punch a guy out. Is that just a little bit of rust that will eventually go away and he'll look like Ohtani all over again when it comes to finishing?
Yeah, I mean, that's your analyzing result instead of execution, right?
Yeah.
So the execution is my execution fine enough to look like a strike, end up a ball, and get a chase? Is my execution great enough to have the ball either go at a certain velocity in a perfect location in the strike zone to strike a guy out looking, or is it good enough stuff to have good movement and velocity in the strike zone to get a swing and a miss? So, no, it's all about execution. And yeah, is it different when you first come back? Oh, it's way different. And he's held to such high standards. Like, he's supposed to walk on water the first day he goes out there. And when he pitches on the mound, there'll be no holes when he leaves it. It'll just be perfectly manicured still. It's like, no, he's not He's not Jesus of pitching, but it's amazing that he can go out there and do what he's doing, and this is a long-term calculation to make sure that he's available in the most important innings of the year, which are probably going to be in September and October. And so this whole schedule, as far as could he have pitched sooner? Oh, I think he could have pitched last year. But his bat is so valuable, and when we were talking about stresses, like Mike asked me to get technical, the stress of pitching and the stress of hitting and the stress of practicing pitching and the stress of practicing hitting and the stress of working out as a pitcher with those movements and working out as a hitter for those movements, he's compounding the equation as far as the risk. And so then we know that when healthy, he is an MVP hitter, DH, and probably could play the field in a most amazing place. He's got the right fielder's arm. He's got the height and eye-hand coordination and glove work for a first baseman. He probably could play third. He probably could play short like Cal Ripken. He could probably play any position, except you wouldn't want to put him behind the plate and add to the risk. So it's the bar's so high for him that we expect him to go out there and just immediately be amazing. But this is all about the calculation. Because he is so good and can impact a possible world championship, it has to be calculated to the point to put him in the most important innings and the most important at-bats and be healthy.
I was feeling a little bit for him as you were describing all the stuff that he has to do, just thinking not as much time for ping pong or, like watching shows or just kind of hanging out. What he's doing, he's breaking down everything. I do want to ask you one more question about pitching, though, Orel. Just thinking about in your day, right, a lot of starters, especially a great one like you, or you're thinking of a Greg Maddux, who are going, expecting to go 7 to 9 innings a game. Like, is there any difference in an expectation for Shohei where a lot of pitchers now, you don't even want to have them see the same hitter 3 times, especially if you have the bullpen like the Dodgers are going to have with the arms back? Like, how do you think that goes into the future? Does the second Tommy John impact it? What about the innings count and kind of what the expectation should be for Shohei to be optimized as a pitcher moving forward?
Yeah, I think there's some abstract numbers out there as far as how many innings, how many pitches. But again, it's going to come back to how does he feel? Because if he comes out of an outing, let's say he gets up to, let's say, 3 innings and 60 pitches for some reason, and he comes out of it and he's just okay, and he's got a little tenderness, and it's normal pitcher tenderness, but you want him to be DH because it's a big series. Now you're making a calculation according to the bat and the body and the pitch count, and then you're getting through that, which is the next few at-bats and the next few days as a DH. If it's 3 days, 5 days with an off day, you're getting through the workouts, you're getting through the chiropractics to make sure he's balanced, you're getting through the massage therapy, you're getting through all the different things, the cardio. And at every point, you're evaluating. Back in my day, we evaluated everything. It was being charted. It is charted and evaluated at a much higher level now, but it is a constant maintenance, constant how do you feel, constant this is what. But the conclusion or the thing that has changed from my generation to this generation is the configuration of the roster and the configuration of what you're expected to do according to game theory. And game theory is the starting pitcher is probably worse than the worst pitcher on your team third time around the order. The starting pitcher then is called on to train for 5 or 6 innings, because that's approximately when the third guys are going to come around. And so now the roster's been expanded to 13 pitchers. In my day, it was 10. You've got 3 extra guys to cover those innings. Those guys are not responsible for 2 to 4 innings or 3 to 5 times a week to be out there. They're responsible for 1 inning or a few batters, and then the inning changes and they don't have to go back out there for the third batter. So the whole equation of what you're called on to do and then what you train to do is completely different. And it's all about game theory and roster configuration and how the game is played. And so Shohei and the other pitchers, but Shohei in particular, is being called on to do these things, and they are monitoring it as we go. But the top end is going to be 5 or 6 innings, and it might not be for him because of coming back from a second Tommy John, because of a late start, because you want him to stay healthy all through the whole year, and because he's a DH MVP that you won a world championship with.
Orel Hershiser joining us here. Mike Trudell is in for DeMarco today. Orel, I sat with some of your teammates from Legends Attic last night, Eddie, Christian, and some guys. You guys are headed to New York for FanFest. They were telling me a little bit. Are you going on the trip as well? I
am going on the trip. Yeah, we leave. The crew goes out a day early for me to set up because this is like the largest, memorabilia convention in the world, and we have a very close relationship with Fanatics, and then we have a great relationship with Topps, and our store out there in Claremont, Legends Attic is a place where people come, and you've been there so many times, and they come and they say, well, how can you not charge an appearance fee or a fee to come in? And we're like, no, this is about the fans and our relationship with the fans. And if you end up buying something, that's great. If you end up just enjoying all the displays and memorabilia that we have and stuff, museum stuff of my stuff, then enjoy that and go home and tell your friends. And so we're headed to New York, and we've got like 3 major booths, and Dave Hobrick, our artist, is being on display. He's actually going to be doing live art. We're going to unveil the Art of the Signature, which is a new few different products that we have, where Dave will do a painting, and we'll cover it, and then we'll have the athlete throw their particular ball with painted balls, painted footballs or baseballs or basketballs at the painting. And now that the athlete is actually part of the painting and doing the art, we also have these items called bricks, which are unbelievable great portraits on a large frame brick. But I'm talking a brick is probably I should know the right measurements, but
3 by 1 almost 3 foot by 1
high and 30 inches wide. And the only reason I know that is because we scolded one of our employees yesterday about memorizing the size of our bricks. Well, I didn't even know the answer, and I'm an owner.
So what do you think you'll get for the brick with my signature and face on it? How much does that go for at Fanatics Fest?
It's going to be higher without the face, but the signature. No, they're pretty cool. I did the demo or the first one, and the idea came from when I went to scout Shohei in Japan. In Japan, they ask you to sign autographs. When we were there, I was there with Andrew Friedman and some of our scouts and my wife, and we went over for a week and followed Shohei around to watch him hit and pitch. And at the time, he couldn't even do side works barely. We saw one side work, and it was probably one of the top 5 sliders I've seen, and he was probably at 80% and needed Tommy John surgery. But so they ask you to sign these large pieces of cardboard. They're about 12 by 12. They're rimmed with like a gold film on the outside, and they're like a painter's canvas. And in their broken English, as they're asking me to sign an autograph, they're saying, sign big, sign big. And so I would sign really big across this whole 12 by 12 card, and that's how they collected autographs. And so I came back and talked to Dave Hobrick, our artist, and told him about this, and he started daydreaming and talking about this, and he goes, I got it. And so he comes back with this thing of my portrait on the side, and then in that 10 by 30 piece of canvas, it's a beautiful autograph. So the autograph is a good 6 to 8 inches high, and it's done by me, and it's done by all the athletes, and it's done in a way that it's probably about 18 inches long, and the portrait is 10 inches high of you, and it's probably about 8 inches wide. And it's a really cool item. I mean, we're going to do we have the originals, of course, that the artists and that Dave does, and then the athlete signs, but then we also have prints. So, not everybody can afford an original, and the originals are going to go from, let's say, anywhere from $700 to $5,000, depending on the unbelievable athletes we have. But the prints are going to be affordable for everybody, and they're so cool. So I'm not even going to have originals in my house because I would rather sell them to somebody that's going to enjoy them. And I know that the originals are in somebody's house where they really are enjoying it. I'll have a print, but I don't hang stuff up of myself in my house. I would rather hang stuff up of Gibby or Soch or
Travis,
other guys. Travis, of course.
Morales definitely.
And
has
once
stuff
I get to know Mike,
yeah.
I'll get one of Mike for sure.
No, it's fine. Yeah, Morales has plenty of Orel Hershiser stuff from back in the day up in his house. Still, we got to get it. We got to get him a fat head.
Yeah,
what
that's
we
old school. This is kind of
Hey,
like
hey, don't be bringing up competing products.
No, this
Let's
is the
go.
more
my bad.
artistic, elevated version of that. Orel,
yeah.
thanks for coming on. I got one more quick one for you before I let you go.
Yeah,
And
go for it.
what makes Shohei is that he does both things and he does them both at a high level. We saw what him fully committed to a season of offense would look like. It was 50-50. It was an MVP. What would a season fully committed to pitching look like? Assuming full health, assuming him sharp, what does that look like?
Well, so we've downgraded the value of a W, right? A win. Not when the team wins, but the contribution to a win is more important than getting the W next to your name. But I think he would go deep into games and have an opportunity to win 20 games. Not that winning 20 games is the ultimate to say you had an amazing season. Nowadays, 15 wins, 13 wins can be an amazing season because of all your peripherals of how you helped your team win. And maybe your offense just didn't get the runs early enough, and the Dodgers are the best comeback team in all of baseball. So a lot of the wins come from the seventh inning on, and even the sixth inning on. And I got another one for you if you got time.
Yeah.
But so with him, I would say an ERA under 3 would be very easy if he was full strength. And I would even think that you could have an ERA under 2.5 from him full strength and locked and loaded only being a pitcher. I think that, the innings total could be over 200, which is a line of demarcation now where it used to be 300. But it's only about opportunity, not about ability that they don't get there. And I think that, over a strikeout an inning for sure, and a walk rate, because his mechanics are going to be as meticulous as Yamamoto's and some others, like a Greg Maddux. I think the walk rate would be, his strikeout to walk rate would be somewhere in the 5-1 to 6-1 possibly. And he would dominate. He would completely dominate. And, the only thing you'd worry about is, how do you feel tomorrow?
Right.
How do you feel tomorrow, big guy?
Yeah,
because, it's Roger Clemens. It's a power pitcher with an unbelievable breaking ball that has pristine mechanics and would have unbelievable location.
Right.
But the one thing going into tonight, my second thing that popped in my head because we're talking about workload and pitchers, is that when the Dodger bullpen, which is a bullpen game tonight, when the Dodger bullpen pitches less than 4 innings, their ERA is over 4.5. When their bullpen pitches more than 4 innings, their ERA is just over 3.5. And when the bullpen takes down 7 or more innings, their ERA is 2.5.
Crazy.
So don't worry if you're a fan and you go out there and you go, it's a bullpen game or the bullpen came in early. They perform better when they come in earlier and take down more innings. And the reason is then the deployment is better to the better pitchers. And the deployment is at a rate of we must be winning. So it's a much better thing when Dave Roberts and Mark Pryor and Andrew Friedman up top and the guys up top can plan out a game against a lineup with the arms that they have and go out there and you see a different name all the time, but don't sit there and worry about them. Think about wow, what a bullpen.
We got a glimpse of it for the first time in a Dodger uniform last night. Shohei Ohtani on the mound. Orel Hershiser is headed to New York for Fanatics Fest. Orel, always great to catch up with you. Thanks so much.
All right, see you, Travis. See you, Mike.
Thanks, Earl.
I could listen to him talk about the pitching all day long. Just, by the way, did you hear he
great
compared
insight.
him to? Greg Maddux and Roger Clemens. Is that a nudge?
That was a nudge.
That's awful.
What? What do you mean?